Hello and welcome to another episode of the Danielle K podcast. You guys, I am actually thrilled today. I have a special guest and she's pretty famous. You may have heard of her. Her name is Bailee D. Ta-da! Yay! Okay, so Bailey's actually my daughter. She is 17 years old. She is my eldest daughter. Oh. And the reason I thought it would be fun to have Bailee on this podcast is I feel like I am not a normal parent, but you're not a normal child. So
thanks, girl.
But really I want Bailee to secretly start podcasting because she not only has a phenomenal voice, but she has a phenomenal voice. Does that make sense?
Hey you guys, it's Danielle K. White. Welcome to the Danielle K. White Show. On this podcast, what you can expect is anything from fashion, fitness, hair, and yes, even family. I'm the creator of Natural Vita Real Hair Extensions and Isla Hand-Tied Hair. But what I'm really passionate about is sharing other people's stories, how they went from the pit to the peak, how entrepreneurs build the success that you see online today. So definitely tune into this podcast for a good story and a little bit of fashion and a little bit of hair and beauty mixed in.
So Bailee, you, at what age did you know you were different?
Oh girl. From like the time I was born, she just came out of the womb knowing I was just that girl.
You just knew. Okay.
I don't know.
No, really. Did you ever so for me, and I want to actually bring about a lot of awareness between mental health. That's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on this show. I think that nowadays how kids are parented and how they're put into schools, they're labeled so quickly, and then it becomes almost something they live in their labels, and instead of saying that maybe this is, I always say your curse is actually your blessing. Like just because this is your label, you have ADD or whatever it is, it's almost looked at as a negative thing. And for me, I don't look at anything with mental disorders as a negative thing, but how can you utilize once you know, oh, I have bipolar, I have ADD or whatever. It's not necessarily a negative thing. It's almost just an awareness of how do I navigate life.
Yeah. I think a lot of people in my generation specifically like to romanticize it instead. So it's like, there's a lot of awareness around mental health, but there's not a lot of directness of actually how are you feeling and what are you doing to help yourself. It's more like, ha ha ha, I'm gonna off myself because this is harder. Ha ha ha, I have OCD because my room is so messy. That's not what OCD is. So it's people like to, and maybe it's just a way of coping, but it's also I feel like you really did teach me, that's your superpower. That's why I'm a great writer. That's why I'm a great singer. That's why I have the opportunities I do, is because I know I was born different. I know I have all these things, but I validate myself and I am aware of it. And through being aware of it, I can also navigate it to be at my advantage, instead of, making silly, funny jokes about it and then not acknowledging it and not helping myself.
Yeah, but is it ever hard when, for me, I've never been diagnosed anything, but I'm confident I'm a lot of different things. I know I am not normal.
If I was diagnosed with almost everything in the book, I'm sure you have something too.
Yeah, but for me, I grew up feeling dumb. How I grew up in school, I wasn't a great tester, I wasn't a great reader, I wasn't a great learner, but I was kind of like you, I was street smart. I literally negotiated my way to graduate through high school. And so part of me was I was labeled as dumb, but I never actually believed it to be true for me.
Right.
And so, but I also was learning how to use how I learn, learning how to use, if I can negotiate my way through high school, how is this going to serve me better in life? So when you were growing up as a kid, was it hard, being in school, feeling, back in then you weren't really labeled, but did you feel you learned or looked at life differently?
Yeah, I was in in third grade. I had to have the special chair in class. I never thought I was weird. I was just, I knew I was weird, but I thought of that as a compliment. I was like, fuck yeah, I'm weird. You're boring. But I always had the squishy bouncy chair, and I didn't realize this until later in life, but I was in honors classes learning the honor curriculum, but I was in the special kid classes. So it was I would learn in the special kid classes, but I would get my assignments from honors. So I would go back and forth between these two other classes. And then there's my regular class, and it was I never really realized that until I was older, but it's I just didn't learn the way the system tried to teach me to learn, because the system was built for a whole type A type person instead of a type B person, And it's not a lot of schools. I've been to like 22 different schools almost. And it's like every single school I went to didn't teach me the way I wanted to be learned, or I needed to learn. And, that's because they can't do that. There's so many people.
Right.
But yeah, I just think that
So traditional schooling did not work for you?
Yeah, it didn't work. And it was almost like I had to figure that out on my own, how to focus and how to do these things at home on my own time,
Yeah. Did you ever feel like I said, like for me, I felt like I was like labeled as like, oh, she's just not that smart. Did you ever feel that way?
No, I didn't ever feel like I wasn't smart. Like I said, I didn't realize that I had ADHD or I had any of these things.
Right.
I think the only time I ever felt insecure about a mental health thing, like for those of you watching or listening, I have like OCD, ADHD, bipolar, depression, anxiety. Like I had sleep paralysis growing up. I have the whole book, And I think the only time I really ever felt insecure about it was in 5th grade, like specifically with like OCD and depression, because, bipolar, it's that up and down thing. I just thought I was very emotional, and I was also growing up, so I didn't really, you're a kid, you don't know. Everyone's kind of emotional, so I thought that was normal to feel that way. And the only time I didn't feel normal was my OCD specifically, I would say. But other than that, I was kind of just like, rawr, I was just like unapologetically me, and I still am to this day. And it's just kind of like I've learned better ways to cope with it. And, I'm like a big fan of like learning different coping mechanisms and using those to my advantage. Like whenever I meet with a therapist, or even right now I'm applying for a therapist, and the thing I put in my description before getting on that interview call is, hey, I'm really open to coping skills because I know that they will help me and they're efficient. I think a lot of people go to therapy to yap, and like that's good because I'm a verbal processor too, but also you gotta learn how to use that yap and then use it to your advantage to help yourself, not just here's my pity party, here's I'm sad, and then you don't do anything.
I will tell you, as your mom, it was hard for me to raise you, if I'm being 100% honest. But I remember as early as probably 3 or 4 years old that I knew there was something different about you. And I remember thinking like, she's not going to do the traditional path. And I distinctly got this voice come to me that says she's not yours to control. She's not yours to tell her, what path is perfect for her. She's her own little person. And it was almost like it was very calming for me. I was like, oh, that's actually takes a lot of pressure off, that she is like, she's not mine to manipulate and control. And, and so ever since I knew that about you, I really kind of felt like she's not going to be on the traditional path. And I need to just really like lean in and make sure that whatever her path is, that you're in a sense guiding me. I'm not really guiding you. You're telling me this is where I want to go. And so, I knew from very early on that you would be in music because you were always singing, like always. But it was like Isla. It was like therapeutic for you.
Yeah.
You would just be like in the back of the car screaming to your lungs. Like, and I was like but at 3 years old, you didn't really have tone or pitch. So I was just like, oh my God. Oh. And so I just remember like there's something about music was very calming to you. Talk to me about how does it help you when you're stressed with your anxiety and everything? What does music do for you?
Music's always been like a soothing and a coping and like also a creative expression. Music is just my soul, and the way I connect to God. It's the way I connect to people. It's the way I connect to myself. It's just, that is me. I am music, and music is me, So it's like never been anything else. I knew in 3rd grade, I was on my way walking from my music class to like my regular class at the Pods when we lived in Ladera Ranch. And I was like, oh, I saw this vision. And it was me on stage in white, big ass arena. I was performing in that stage, saw the crowd crying, like I knew. And then that was the minute I knew. I was like somewhere, like I was like 5, right? I'd loved singing up until that point. But at 5, I knew like, oh, this is me. That's my soul, And I was like, there isn't any other option. There never has been. I've known since I was little, which that does come almost in a way with its like good parts and its bad parts. Cause then it's like, you have this pressure on yourself because you've known your calling since such a young age that you're like, fuck, I'm behind. I'm not ready. Even like everyone on my team right now for music, they're like, oh my, like Roger is always like, Bailee, like sometimes you need to have patience because I've already seen this and you know where you're supposed to go. So you're like why isn't it happening yet?
Yeah.
But it's because you already know where you're supposed to go. You're just having to go through the steps to get there.
But do you know, at such a young age, to have that vision of yourself and know that's who you are, it's a natural knowing.
Yeah.
And for you to have that at such a young age is incredible, that you actually see it and you believe it.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something to really touch base on with young audience here is if you see yourself in an arena, like, it's not a fantasy. It's to show you who you can become.
Right.
Not to say that you're not willing to put in the work, but I love what you just said, where you're like, you saw that, and in your soul, you're like, okay, it's almost like overwhelming. Like, okay, I got to do the work. I've already seen her.
It's so overwhelming because it's like the baby steps. I don't know how to get there. You know, I know it's supposed to happen, but how? And it's like, God will show you, or whatever you believe in will show you. Like, that's how it will come about. You just have to have faith and trust, you know?
Yeah.
And whether that's like, you know, energy you believe in, God, I don't know, other things that you can believe in outside of yourself, but like, as long as you have that focus and that knowing, then it'll happen, because anything that's meant for you will come to you.
I think that that is a gift, though. I think that I have that same, I call it superpower, where it's almost like you have like a belief in the future, but it's so real. You're like, wow, that's me.
Yeah.
And so it goes down to this natural knowingness. And, you know, some people might be triggered by the word God or whatever, but I don't believe as humans that it is just our human experience. I believe there's a wisdom beyond this world. Talk to me about that. What is that for you?
I think I believe in God for myself. I believe in energy for myself. And I am very okay with the fact that other people might believe in different things, and that's completely fine. And I support you in that, because as long as, like, to me, if someone has a belief outside of themselves, that's amazing, you know, because then you have something to lean on yourself, or to lean on when you're down, the outside of yourself, you know, because at the end of the day, you can't just lean on yourself. Yeah. Even if you're at the lowest of your lows,
higher purpose.
Because exactly. Because if you're at the lowest of your lows, there's no one else or no other outerly
thing to help you. Is it a remembering of who you are? So when you're in your lowest of your lows and you're depressed, you have that visualization of you being on stage and you remember who you are? Or how does that work for you? Like, if you're down and depressed, like, what picks you back up? Just like that knowing of, like, this is who I am.
I think it's kind of different, but at the end of the day, like, if I'm really in the, like, if it's like a, you know, bipolar, I have sadness throughout the day all the time, right? That's just how it works. Yeah. So those are different. But if it's something where it was like when I was in 5th grade and like having suicidal ideations and like ready to commit, like, sorry, deep trigger warning, sorry. But like, that was like, that's something where I lean on to God, you know? Like, I'm like, God told me, like, I saw myself singing and I was like, okay, I'm not supposed to do this, you know? Or like in treatment, I was like, well, fuck, what am I gonna do now? I'm here for the next, I don't know how long, but I have God. So that's like my holding on to when there's no other hope in my own human eyes, you know? Yeah. I use the word God to reference it as well, because, you know, it's a higher power, higher source. Yeah. But for me, and God seems to make sense, because that is the strongest word that we hold with that title. Does that make sense? If somebody just says, I'm spiritual, or I'm this, I'm like, why are you afraid to give God that title? Right. And it doesn't even have to be a Christian God. It doesn't have to be a Catholic God. It doesn't have to be. I look at it as the highest source, you know, and I think God lives within all of us. Yeah. So you have not been on the traditional path. You went to treatment. It was a wilderness program for 3 months, probably as a mom. And a lot more than that. There was 9 months, honey. As a mom, that was one of the hardest things that I went through, even though you went through it. It was very challenging for me, because here I'm thinking like, okay, I'm here to guide and protect my daughter, and things were happening that I knew who you were too. So like, when you are like, this is me, I'm like, as your mom, I knew who you were too. And at my job to protect you, I was like, okay, we've got to get her out of this environment for a short period of time. And although it was hard, do you feel like you really learned a lot about yourself? Because that's when you were diagnosed with, different tests and things like that. Do you find that's going to be useful for you later in life? I think that I don't necessarily agree with treatment as a whole, as a structure, but I agree with therapy and I agree with helping yourself. So I think there's lots of different routes that I could have gone through to learn what I learned through treatment, but treatment just happened to be in this lifetime what I went through to learn what I needed to learn, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that through that, it was really me, myself, and like, I liked one of my therapists. The rest were kind of ass, no lie. Love you though if you're watching this. I don't know, but
I'm sure they don't follow me.
I'm sure they don't.
I'm sure
they don't. One of them's probably got. I don't know. He was old as hell. But shoot, wait, I forgot. Where was I just
saying, as a mom, I agree. I believe that there are so many different ways that you would have discovered a lot about yourself. And I tell Dad this all the time. I'm like, but Bailey's not normal. She's on the fast track.
Right, exactly. That was the fast track to learning what I needed to learn, and it was like exactly. I think I look back and I self-reflect a lot, and I self-reflect through a lot of good things in my life that have happened, and a lot of neutral things, and a lot of negative things that have happened in my life. But without going through each of these three things, I wouldn't be the person I am today. I wouldn't be able to write the songs I would, and I wouldn't be able to, at such a young age, have the privilege and the opportunities I'm getting within my career and my music, and able to start this at such a young age, and then impact other people. Because I truly believe that I'm here to impact and help. My whole mission statement, quote unquote, with music is that I want to create a safe environment for people to feel loved, people to feel cared for, and people to feel like they can be themselves, you know? Through my music, I want that to be the energy in the concerts. If you're being an asshole, you're out, you know? Like, I want everyone to be there for each other. I don't care what your race is, your ethnicity is. I don't care what your religion is. I don't care anything. I want you to all love one another and be good. You know? So that's like my goal with music, even if you're just listening at home. Like, you feel that love. Because I was once that girl who was sitting there sad and depressed and didn't know what to do with her own life and didn't know if I even wanted to be here. And music is what helped me through that, you know?
Right. And it's crazy when I hear you talk about, you know, your mission statement, things like that. And that's why I genuinely believe in those on the team know that you'll have great success, because there's so many manufactured artists today that might be a one-hit wonder. But when you can actually pour your soul out to help other people, it's all about connecting. And now music's not what it was 10, 15 years ago. And there's lack of soul and there's lack of connection. So those artists that can actually impact and happen to know how to sing, like, just that's a crazy thing. Don't you think in the music industry, like, a good voice it's not enough anymore?
No, it's really not. There's so many good voices, especially with social media. Like, you're just exposed to so much good vocals, you know? And certain people are meant to be vocalists, and certain people are meant to be songwriters, and certain people are meant to be whatever it is. But there's only a few amount of people who are meant to be artists. You know?
And you're definitely, in my eyes, I mean, I'm biased because I'm your mom, but like, I definitely see you as like the entire package. So you went to treatment, which again, I was one of the hardest things I did as a mom. And I was like, is this going to scar her? Is this going to make her? Is this going to break her? Is this going to, whatever it is. But I look at who you are today and I feel like we're on the right track. And I do feel like you are an old soul. And it was interesting. We made the pivot with Bailee when you came back from treatment and you went to high school. Talk about that. Like, you were like, why am I here? What was your experience?
Right after treatment?
Yeah. Because you weren't really you'd always loved music, but we really didn't focus on your music until the last like year and a half.
I think it was just like a weird, funky time. I was just kind of figuring out who I was still and where I was socially, and like, I met my boyfriend there, and like, I don't know. It was just like a very neutral time.
But you went. I remember you went to high school and you went there for maybe 3 weeks.
I just thought that this is a fuck show. I was like, why? Everyone's just doing drugs in the bathroom. There was a bitch.
You literally sent me a photo of alcohol in the men's urine where was it? Why were you in the men's bathroom? First off,
I wasn't. It was my now boyfriend who was snapping me. We were just talking, guys, and then he sent me a funny picture. But it was funny because I was like, Bailee, you have to go to school. You have to go to school. Again, on that traditional path. But literally school is just kind of like, it's just pointless. Even like college, like, I really think that's just a shit show. Like, that's just an excuse to fuck around because you don't know what you want to do, especially if you're majoring in business. Girl, who are you trying to lie to right now?
Now things are different and you don't necessarily need that. No.
Yeah, unless you're trying to be like a doctor or like scientist
even to be a cosmetologist. Like I told Ruby, because she wants to do hair, I was like, well, you have to actually get a GED to go to cosmetology school. A lot of people don't know that. But what's interesting with you, I remember when you were like, Mom, like I put you back in the traditional path, which was never your path. And I watched you get depressed. And I was like, I can't keep trying to put her in the traditional path. And when you were like, you're like, Mom, this is stupid. This is stupid. Part of me felt bad because I wanted you to experience high school like a normal kid, quote, you know, like I was like, I want her to go to the dances and I don't want her to feel like you ever like, you know what I mean? I went through like all the high school dances and all that. And I didn't want you to feel like you're missing out on anything.
But what am I missing out on? Like really like.
But you even expressed to me, you were like, oh, I kind of miss it. And I'm like, but do you? And you're like, no, I don't want to be in high school.
Yeah. I mean, there was a certain couple times where I was like, fuck, like I, you know, wish I did experience certain things. Cause like I really didn't go to high school, you know? Like,
yeah, I know.
I was in treatment my freshman year. My sophomore year, I dropped out of high school and then, bam. So, I mean, at least I was like lucky enough to have like a boyfriend and a best friend who were going to high school. So, you know, I did go to like prom. I did go to the things. Yeah. But even I went to prom and I was like, this shit is so stupid.
Yeah.
Like people actually do this and think this is fun. And no offense, like that's cool if you love that. Like that's so cool for you, but it wasn't for me. Well, you know,
it was hard for me to like, I tried to put you in that because I didn't want you to feel like you missed out. And then when you're sending me the photos of what goes on in high school, I was like, what in the shit show is this? So then we stopped going to high school. I say we because I feel like we were in it together.
Oh, okay, girlie.
We stopped going to high school and I didn't know what to do with you because I was like, well, you weren't old enough to have a job at the time. You were 15, right? I think you're 15.
I had a job, but that was a spookalicious moment.
But just saying, I was like, hey, like doing nothing is not an option. Yeah. And I remember you came to me and you're like, hey, I want to go to this music.
It was, I went to this like music recording studio. I had a friend who like I was like friends with for like that season of my life. And like I went to this recording studio and I met a lot of great people and I got to like connect with a lot of other people my age who were also doing music, and a lot of them were all in alternative schooling or older. And so they weren't in school. So it was like nice. I had like my own little music community for that time period of my life as well. So it was like I got to transition out of school almost into like a music school, it wasn't a music school. It was like where you could develop being an artist. So it was really fun and I got to experience that. And then you know, I learned a lot through that. I learned what I love, what I don't love through music. I got to really explore myself from like 15 to like the end of 15 to beginning of 17. So like around a year and a half, just got to explore who I was as an artist and what I wanted to do. And like now I'm in this place where I feel like I was like, okay, now we're taking off the training wheels. Yeah, now we're taking off the training wheels of like music school. And now I'm in like big girl actual music industry. Quote unquote. I know, like I'm not like artist, I'm not like it, but I'm gonna be there. Don't you fret. You'll see me. I'll be. Mark my words. I'm getting a bunch of Grammys in the next like 3-5 years.
I like it.
But, anyways, I'm now like transferring over into my quote unquote college or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
But it's crazy because I saw that for an opportunity for you, and I would love talking to other moms and be like, "Oh, your daughter, she dropped out of high school." I'm like, "Yeah, she did, but she goes and does music 9 to 5,
I almost
5
love
days
to
a
say
week."
Because I'm like, I don't really owe you an explanation.
And I don't either. And I see, like, I was worried because I was like, you got to do something. You got to do something. So then I made a deal. I'm like, if you'll do music 9 to 5 and you show that you love it, then I can support you on this journey. And so when people were like, oh, like kind of like she's like, you know, I was like, bitch, no.
I was OC mama's trying to be
I was
OC
like,
mamas.
I was literally thinking like she's working her ass off to pursue her passion, which is music. And so I was okay with that. And I felt like I showed up the best I could to support you in that journey. And I still feel like Dad and I are supporting you in this journey. We're currently putting together a pretty phenomenal team.
Oh yeah, got a lot of high ballers.
So like, in the music industry, I didn't know, I mean, obviously I haven't been in this, but I didn't know like, you don't just like make it. You have to have a team. You've got to have a lawyer. You got to have a manager. You've got to have a songwriter, producer. Like there's like a package. So I feel like we're putting together a pretty powerful team, and I'm excited to see like the next chapter for you. That's why I had to get her on my podcast before she goes famous, guys, because then I'm gonna have to like make it.
We have a lot of cool moves being made right now with my music career. Can we drop
any hints or no? We can't. Okay,
but fine. Just know
we got some big names.
That is really cool and very exciting, and
we can't drop any names.
You'll catch me at the grant. I can share some text messages I've received.
Oh, from who?
From people.
Okay.
So one of which this was the other night. This was from someone on my team, and crap, where is it? Hold on, guys, hold on. Okay, and he said, "It's always nice when things come together. I've been waiting for a good reason to start attending Grammy Awards again. You'll be my reason." And then I have a bunch of people who are working with a bunch of okay. The girlies and the gays will get this. Your favorite artist. Yep.
Your favorite artist, artist?
You won't know. You won't know. You won't know.
I will.
If there's any girlies on here.
No, literally, you've been telling me some like big names. I'm like, fun, who are they? And you're like, Mom. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. And then you're like, do you know this big music person? I'm like, oh, I know who that is. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, stay tuned.
So stay tuned.
Ready. I have a lot of music and a lot of cool things.
What is the hardest part about being me and Dad's kid?
All of it.
Wow, you're welcome.
No, just kidding. I think that
because we did a podcast with the family that you and Parker were sharing how it's stressful. The standard is so high.
I would say what I believe to be true in this moment of my life is the hardest part about being your child, specifically. Basically, the first kid raised into the family. Like, Parker is the first kid, but
he wasn't raised in our family.
Wasn't raised. Yeah. He came in later. And, like, being that person who was first raised and being a female specifically, I feel like it was a lot. Meaning, I think that, like, you guys were so young and you were learning how to parent. I have had a sibling relationship with you guys. Yeah. And so it's like, you know, Dad's like brother, uncle, you're like sister, aunt, like, you know, it was more like that vibe growing up. Yeah. Because it's your first life too that we know of, and that you guys, I don't know what happens after you die. And you guys are still learning how to be parents. You guys were, you have me at 24. So it's like, you know, I think you guys did your best for how you were, and I think you guys are learning to do better with your next children.
I don't know if we are, just
but
so you're saying we were fuck ups?
No, I'm saying that we were learning together. I'm saying in a nice way.
That's the challenging. That's the most challenging part about being.
Yes, because I think
my daughter is.
Yeah, I think it's that.
So you're saying there's forgiveness?
Yeah. No, I'm just saying
I was a great mom.
Yeah, you are a great mom. You were a great mom. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm saying that the hardest part was that we were learning together.
I felt like
I think that we didn't have it figured out. You know, you didn't have a test trial before this. I didn't have a test trial before this. We were figuring it out together as we go, and we were figuring out my parenting together as we go when I was younger.
I still don't know if I'm like the best parent. I just know I love the shit out of my kids. So I'm like, that's got to stand for something.
I think you're a great parent.
I'm not great at follow up or discipline or any of those things. I guess I'm just really good at. I don't know if my follow up and discipline is not my strength, but I do try to really like at least lean into my kids. And even though I'm like more
you guys
quiet,
always
like his dad's always been the more vocal one.
Yeah.
And he's like, you don't seem like you care as much, but I'm different than Dad. Like I don't verbalize my feelings a lot. I'm almost like just want to make sure you guys are like safe and protected and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's interesting though, because you've been raised in abundance. Does this make you look at life with different standards or expectations for your own life?
Yeah, 100%. I think my viewpoint on money is completely screwed. Skewered. And, you know, that's something, you know, everyone has their things they're going to have to figure out when they grow up, whether it was the fact they were raised with no money or a lot of money or middle, you know, or they had parents who didn't show they fought or did show they fought, you know, it's like everyone has their thing. So it's just like, that's my thing. And it's like, not a bad thing, you know, but I'm definitely, you know, when I move out on my own with my boyfriend, I'm going to have to fucking learn what the hell all that is. I think, I'm like, shit. So my parents have money, but I'm a broke bitch.
Yeah.
Damn.
Well, I think it's interesting because I think people assume that we give you everything, and we do.
Oh my God, so many people assume.
Well, we give you a lot. Okay.
Well, no. So, okay. Here's how I would like to say. I would say that you guys do give me a lot, and like I'm very grateful for it. I also would say you don't just hand me things.
Yeah,
you don't just like spoil me rotten and be like nepo baby type shit. Like you don't have to do anything with your life. We're not going to push you. We're not going to put any pressure on you. You can live here till you're 45 years old. Have your family.
Be good.
And yeah, that'd be real spooky. You know, but like, yeah, I'm not half of the people I see in our neighborhood with their sons.
Oh,
no tea, no shade. Love you guys.
So, but like, well, here's the thing though. Is like, I think it's important to like put responsibilities on you. I can't like just expect you to move out at 18 and have it figured out.
Yeah, exactly. Like you guys, I have my own job. I make my own money. I pay for my own gas. You know, you guys pay for my car bill. Like that's something where I'm very privileged to have that. You guys pay for my phone. I'm very privileged to have that. You know, if we're going shopping together, you'll like get me like some stuff. But also like if I want my own food, if I want to buy my own whatever. If I want to buy my own photo shoot, if I want to do my own clothes, my own hair, you know, like I will pay for that with my own money because I worked for that money. And like, I'm not just gonna be like, hey mom, can you give me a Louis Vuitton, please?
Well, you wouldn't turn it down though, right?
What?
You wouldn't turn it down though. So if I did,
fuck no. Who's gonna turn down Louis Vuitton?
Let's be real honest.
Who's gonna turn down
I gave you a Louis Vuitton backpack when you were 12 and a pair of Gucci sneakers, and Dad was like, I think we should not give her all these things.
That's why I'm saying you guys aren't just okay. I'm privileged and I receive these things and I acknowledge that, but also I'm not like an asshole Nepo baby. Does that make sense?
I don't know what Nepo means. Here is all I know is I was raised in abundance, but I always had a job, and that was the way that I wanted to raise my daughters. It was like, hey, my parents gave me a lot, but they weren't just like shoveling out cash.
Right, exactly.
And so it taught me work ethic.
Yeah.
And it taught me how to, you know, manage money at some point.
Right.
And so I think that's important as a parent. If I could give you any life lessons, it's like, hey, you're going to go get a job. You're going to learn how to manage your own bank accounts and whatever you're doing. Because otherwise I'm like, what am I teaching you by just funding you all the time? So even though we can, I look like that's how I was raised.
It's almost sorry, continue.
I was going to say that's how I was raised. My parents would like help support me as long as I was working and being responsible.
Yeah. And I think too, like, I know that like, you guys will invest in things that are like worth it, like music. If it's a music opportunity and it like does require, you know, an investment, I'll bring it up as like a business proposal, business offer. We'll talk about it. We'll go over it, and then you'll give me a yes or no. Right. You know, and because it's almost like an investment into my career and into my business rather than like, here's some cash.
Here's some cash. Okay.
Here's some cash.
Well, you're doing amazing. I have one final question for you. Are you ready?
Yes, girly.
If you had a younger version of Bailee listening to this and she's like, yeah, I don't feel like I'm not the status quo. I feel different. You know, I feel called, you know, or I have ADD or I have other mental disorders, and she's watching you rise. What can you give advice to think of you, 12 and 13-year-old Bailee, when you're just sad and you're in that space? What advice could you give to this girl to give her hope? Think of you.
I don't know, because I always actually have felt like when I was younger, what I would also lean on is like knowing that I felt like I was talking to the older version of myself. And even when I was older, I would always send little messages in my own brain. Like, you know, I kind of like thought of it like that, like, oh, I'm sending a message energetically to my younger self. And so I've kind of always practiced this. I would say right now in this season of my life, I would send to the younger version of myself right now that you need to learn patience, and you need to take a breath and know that you're loved and that you're safe and everything's going to be okay, and you just have to trust. That's what I would say right now. And also, keep singing, girly. Keep singing. You'll be a belter.
But I think that's beautiful. I mean, if somebody's feeling like dark and depressed, it's just that simple. Know that you're loved. Yeah. Know that you're meant for more.
I think it goes a long way just telling someone you love them. Or even at work right now, like working customer service type vibe, just telling a woman who looks like she's having a bad day that, hey, you look beautiful today. Yeah,
you're good at that. You're very good at like pointing things out. Like, Mom, you look good today. Mom, your butt looks nice. Mom, I like your shirt. And I'm like, oh, because I think there's a lot of like, you're like, oh, you see me. Thank you.
Yeah, because it's like, I feel like sometimes people don't hear that enough, you know, that like you're doing a great job, and that I think a lot of people, what they're looking for is just validation, you know, and not necessarily in like a negative way, because sometimes people look at validating someone as a negative way, and I'm like, it's not a negative thing to tell someone that they're doing a great job and they're trying, and that you're acknowledging that they're trying their best, and that they're doing what's hard for them, and it may not be hard for you, but that's okay because it's hard for them.
But that's your gift. That's one of your gifts, is you notice people and you like acknowledge them. It's a gift that you can give back to people. So I love that you stay in tune with that and you do it. So Bailee's working at Starbucks, you guys, and she's going from Starbucks to stadiums. So you're definitely going to want to follow her journey. Bailee, where can they follow along and find out more information about you?
Guys, my Instagram.
Is it the blog that Amber created that's not put up yet?
Okay, sorry guys.
It's not done yet.
Don't look at me. Don't look at me like
where can my people find you and follow your beautiful journey from Starbucks to stadiums?
My Instagram is Bailee, Bailee.D.White, WHITE. And my TikTok is that as well, just with a 3 at the end for the E.
All right. I love it, you guys. Follow her along. Give us about 18 months, and this girl's gonna be famous. Gonna be famous. All right, you guys. Thank you so much for watching and listening to another episode of the Danielle K. White Show. Again, I revamped this podcast this year, and I'm only bringing on A-listers. So today I had the opportunity and privilege to have my daughter, my oldest daughter, Bailee D. White, on. Hopefully you guys got some value out of it. You're listening to this and you're a mother and you really, her voice is speaking to you. Share it with your daughter. Share it with your son. Share it with that generation, because I genuinely believe that she's going to have such a massive impact in a world that is so lost and chaotic. She will bring back the connection and the soul. So thank you for being on the show, and share this with your friends. Every single week, we're coming out with a new episode with other celebrity guests, just like Bailee D. White.
Hell yeah. And if you want me to sing her intro, you should definitely all DM her and spam her and tell her to let me do that.
All right, guys, that's it. We'll see you next week.
Bye.